I'm actually a terrible programmer. I moved to Canada at 8. I wasn't a math whiz. I didn't build an app by age 6. They even put me in special ed. My first job was a paper route when I was 12 years old, and I continued to do random jobs up until university. I started programming to get a stable job. Coding was just a means to an end. Big tech companies were a dream, but not one I'd ever take seriously. Or so I thought. I applied to a university called Waterloo because it had co-op and I needed help paying for school. The money I raised in all of those previous jobs lasted me less than 1 full term. Waterloo was a scary place. Everybody already knew how to code. People were using words I'd never even heard before. Garbage collector? I thought that was a government job. What the hell does that have to do with Java? Also, what the hell is Java? The first term was super rough. I had no confidence. I really believed I was going to drop out. This was a place for smart people, not for me. The intro to computer science class consumed my life. We programmed in something called Racket, a functional language used for teaching recursion. Also, recursion. How is your professor going to teach recursion by Googling it and then clicking, "Did you mean recursion?" on repeat? The worst part about that is it's actually not a bad explanation in retrospect. There were so many deadlines that caught me off guard that I was struggling to submit anything before the deadline, never mind the correct answers. After my first term, I went home and I told my parents to expect that I failed at least 1 course, but probably more. To my surprise, I got high 60s to low 70s in most of my courses. It was just enough to keep me in the co-op program. The co-op program. If your imposter syndrome wasn't bad enough, this is when it really kicks into drive. These prodigy kids are securing Google and Facebook offers and they won't shut up about it on LinkedIn. Meanwhile, I didn't even bother to apply to these jobs. Why? Because I didn't know how to program. I knew Racket. What the f is Racket? I took a job at a company called Maple Leaf Foods, the most Canadian company I could find. It was IT support. I helped people fix their Windows computers. Now, remember that because it's going to come in handy later. While I was there, I noticed there were some basic commands that were done repeatedly. So instead of doing it, one day I went to a coffee shop, I bought an Intro to Python course, I Googled the hell out of everything, and I created a Python program that would do these tasks for us. It was a cool initiative, but don't get it twisted, it wasn't some big program. It basically just parsed a CSV file and ran a for loop. For that effort, I was given the highest rating of any previous co-op at Maple Leaf Foods. Lesson number 1, always look for opportunity instead of sulking. Now fast forward to second year. I'm still feeling pretty bad about the whole program. My friends are coming back and they have awesome stories about cool internships and co-ops, and I fixed a few computers and wrote 46 lines of Python, including comments. This is when I took object-oriented programming. Thank the good Lord, this is actually what programming is. I can now apply to real jobs. Shit, wait, this is hard too. Object-oriented programming is where I learned about inheritance, polymorphism, all of those things that make you a real programmer. Lesson 2, learn how you learn. This is when I learned the best studying method for me, teaching. As I learned a concept, I would go to an empty classroom after dark and teach it to an empty classroom. Yeah, actually. This led me to my second co-op. I'm not going to say the company's name because I don't have anything good to say about them, but you can find them on my LinkedIn if you really cared. This company was the worst. They'd yell at me almost every day. They'd blame me for things I never touched. They'd keep me till after midnight some days, and going home at 8 p.m. was a treat. Okay, so this is my lowest point. I promise it gets better from here. In third year, I figured, well, if I was going to drop out, it probably would have happened by now. This is where I start to feel more confident because I figured out university. Lesson 3, figure out university. I no longer rush to finish assignments last second. I start assignments the second they come out, and I usually finish 2 days before. Now I have more than enough time to go to office hours or ask TAs if I really get stuck. I no longer struggle to learn concepts. Some Indian guy on YouTube teaches me, and then I teach an empty classroom. Lesson number 4, sometimes the interview doesn't go well. Don't take it personally. I had an interview at Yahoo that I really wanted because I really wanted to work in California, but they rejected me because I couldn't do LeetCode 6, the zigzag problem. To this day, I cannot do this problem. I'm 25 years old, I work at a major tech company, I've had multiple friends try to explain it to me, and it's LeetCode f***ing medium. So I didn't get the job at Yahoo. I landed a job at Toast. No, not that Toast, this Toast. You may have heard of it, but back in 2017, it was still a startup. Toast is where I really learned how to be a software engineer. Toast makes restaurant software, point of sale systems, and I worked on their online ordering team, which essentially saved them during the pandemic. They treated me like a normal employee. I had to take a problem to idea to solution and deployment. I learned what front-end and back-end frameworks are. I finally developed professionally in Java and JavaScript, and I learned they are nothing alike and horribly named. I learned about the CI pipeline and Agile and all those other buzzwords I'd heard back in first year. Lesson number 4, slow down. This isn't a race. Test it, then test it again, then again, then again. There were plenty of times where I had a PR with 50 plus comments on it, or I merged my code and I have to revert it multiple times. I was embarrassed about my skill, as if I'd shown my hand and people saw I was bluffing. At Toast, that time constraint was in my own head. They just wanted the code to work. I was trying to prove I was a worthy hire and pump out as much productivity as I could, but I was doing sloppy work as a result. I often missed details in the spec, or I didn't fully test my code. When my boss pointed that out to me, it was actually kind of freeing, and it resulted in me doing much better work overall. If it wasn't for Toast, I probably would have quit the game. But to my surprise, they also gave me the highest rating. Lesson number 5. Your life isn't over. You'll get another shot. Remember back when I failed that interview at Yahoo? Well, I got another one, and this time I had easier problems, so I got the job. I worked with this other intern named Sahir. Now, remember that because it's going to come in handy later. I wrote all of the functionality for this search bar in the new and improved Yahoo Mail. You probably haven't seen it because you use Gmail. I know, me too. I paid $12.50 a month for the dirtiest housing I've ever lived in, and I had cockroaches. Lesson 5.5, Cali is expensive and has cockroaches. Damn, what an L. Moving on. Lesson number 6, do the research yourself. At Yahoo, there were plenty of times I asked questions I didn't have to. Most of the tasks that you need to do are already documented in your company's wiki. If you want to, for example, create a new deployment pipeline, ask your team for a link to the company wiki and then just do a search for it. You'll most likely come up with the answer. And if you don't, it's fair game to ask. And once you ask, just write that document so the next person doesn't have to ask. So after Yahoo, I had one last internship. I wanted to travel, so I went back to Toast, but I went to their Dublin office. Now, since I was originally from Ireland, I didn't need any visa or anything like that. I was 1 year away from graduating when I got a text message from Sahir back from Yahoo. He texted me, I just got a full-time job offer at Microsoft. Wait, Microsoft? This whole time I thought I wasn't smart enough to work at Microsoft, but I worked with Sahir. And he's a smart guy, but we had the same job. If he can get that job, surely I can get it too, right? I applied and I got the interview. They wanted to fly me out to Seattle, but my current job didn't want me to go. Lesson number 7. Take a chance on yourself. I made the executive decision to go anyway and burn that bridge at Toast. It was a hard decision to make because I still love and respect the company, but I had to do what was right for me. And honestly, most of my colleagues thought I was doing the right thing. I remember on the plane thinking, if I fail this interview, I have nothing. No pressure. Lesson number 8, it's all relative. This whole time at Waterloo, I felt as if I was below the bar. Everybody else was smarter than me. I was always the dumbest person in the room. At the Microsoft interview, most people had 1 intern experience and I had 6. It was the first time I realized that everything's relative. Sure, I was below average at Waterloo, but I was above average countrywide. The interviews all went well, except for one, and I landed the job. Now remember back to that first internship where I was helping people fix their Windows computers? Now I'm literally coding Windows, all in the span of 4 years. Lesson number 9, don't be an elephant. Wait, let me explain. Do you know they can tie elephants down with a small stick and a piece of rope? Surely the elephant can pull this out of the ground. Why don't they just walk away? When the elephant is young, they tie it up securely. It learns it isn't strong enough to escape. Even when it turns into a 4-ton behemoth, it doesn't realize. It doesn't even try to escape anymore. The restraint in this case was my limiting beliefs. Microsoft was ecstatic to hire me, but if it wasn't for Sahir, I wouldn't have even applied. So know this, you won't be able to immediately pull the stick out of the ground, but you will get there. If you aren't the smartest person in the room, you're doing something right. And if you are the smartest person in the room, find a different room. We created these resume templates that went viral on LinkedIn. A Facebook resume that looks like a Facebook feed. A Google resume that looks like Google search. We drafted up resumes like this for all the big tech companies and we're giving them away for free. We got plenty of recruiters reaching out to us telling us how cool these things look. We're giving these resume templates away to anyone who subscribes and likes the video. Then you can just go to hiredfortech.com and enter your email. Voila, we'll send it to you. The earlier you sign up, the better, because we're sending these out in waves, and the less people that have them, the more unique they are. I'll see you in the next video.